Ever wondered how an electric vehicle handles a grueling day on the road? Today we're pushing the limits. 380 miles through relentless rain, gusty winds and unpredictable conditions on some real energy-sapping roads. Can an EV deliver the range, comfort and reliability you need when the weather is anything but ideal? Let's find out. This is more than a road trip. It's a test of endurance, technology and trust in your vehicle. Ready to join me for the ride? Let's hit the road. Sorry. Today's challenge is to drive the circa 400 miles from my home in West Yorkshire to the highest point on the M74 between Carlisle and Glasgow and back. Over 5,000 metres of elevation gain and a lot of that into a headwind. I've done no advanced planning and we will be relying on the in-car sat-nav of my Kia EV6 to navigate traffic and decide on the best charging plan. More on this later. As you can see, a typical day around North Leeds. Lots of traffic on the roads. As I said, I've not done any planning on here, and at this point I can already see a diversion up ahead where there's a road closure, so my distance is already increasing. As I said, the best thing here is that to let the sat-nav in the car do its job to negotiate its way around the traffic and also to give you the best charging options. So at this point, a little update on the road closures up ahead. It looks like the A66 is closed and there's a further closure up on the A1. My sat-nav is aware and it's trying to negotiate me around me. At this point you have to put your faith in your sat-nav to find a way around. I should point out that my intention for this was to do the voiceover from in the car, and I managed to record it, but the audio quality is pretty poor, so unfortunately I'm doing a voiceover in post, as they say. The Kia sat-nav is pretty good. It's got live traffic updates, and I could already see at this point from the on-screen map that it was trying to negotiate a way around, which wasn't adding too much in terms of distance, and it hadn't altered my charging schedule at this point. So this is the first of the diversion. I'd normally be peeling off into the left-hand lane here to go down the A66 and over towards Penrith, but it's asking me to carry on for one junction and then go off left and go through some village area. Bit of an interesting one, but quite a useful use of the sat-nav. So at this point you start to question your sat-nav. As you will have seen, it turned me back onto the A66, which was allegedly closed, with absolutely no traffic on it, so you think, should I be here? But now we come to a stop behind this HGV and what looks like temporary traffic lights. Sat-nav's trying to send me off left, but if the traffic lights are just allowing a contraflow around whatever the incident is, I'm just going to carry on and follow it. At this point, the sat-nav has adjusted my charging routine. It's added an extra charger in. It's not really increasing the amount of time spent charging, it's trying to minimise the amount of time spent on charge. And it's got us doing one charge on the way up towards Gretna and one on the way back, plus one further south. It's 114 miles to destination and I've still got about 50% of battery here. Yeah, just in case you missed it, everybody loves a phantom set of roadworks, don't they? Road lane closure sign, so everybody moves over to the left hand side, and then there's nothing, nobody there. So that's the first of the big climbs out of the way as we've gone over the A66 and now into Cumbria. Efficiency at this point was down at 2.6 miles per kilowatt hour. Bearing in mind the lifetime average of this vehicle is 3.2. So it's down. It's not down as far as I was expecting, but still you see that it's having a big impact. Weather update. You can see that it looks quite nice here. The road is wet though, so it has been raining, and the forecast is for it to deteriorate later. But at the moment, yeah, you can see it's just a little bit damp, but it's not actually too terrible. So this is the point at which we get to 50% remaining on the battery. Completed 107 miles, and it's showing 103 miles of range remaining. So that gives us a theoretical total range of 210 miles, which nothing like advertised. But this is real world we're talking about in here. It's cold, it's windy, it has been a bit wet on the road, so all of these things contribute towards a reduced range. But this is one of the main complaints that people have when they first get an EV, is that the range is nothing like advertised. Well, it's the same in an ICE powered vehicle. The range is never what advertised. Let's not forget Dieselgate. So these are tested under real clinical conditions with a set test route that doesn't involve going up and down hills on the Pennines. People just have to adjust and adapt to the conditions as they are actually doing in their ICE powered vehicles. The difficulty is it all becomes in your face because you're looking at the range as one of the biggest things on your display, and it becomes a bit more of an obsession for people. So as we're onto the M6 here, heading north towards Carlisle, the maps have updated. It's added in the charger at Gretna. The Ionity chargers at Gretna as being my next charger, because my efficiency was a bit better than expected. I had a decision to make here. I promised myself and promised you, the viewer, that I would use the inbuilt sat-nav and not ignore it. But the Gretna charger is there's only 4 of them, and it's a little bit of a honeypot because there's not many chargers beyond that. It's always busy, and should I continue to use the inbuilt sat nav, or should I use my own personal knowledge? Bit of an internal debate going on here. If I'd left the in-car audio, I ramble on for far too long about whether I should do it or not. A lot of people may jump in the comments and say, well, why don't you use something like a better route planner, which is an app that specifically for EV charging, or some other reasons? There's a few reasons for using the inbuilt sat nav for a journey like this. First and foremost, particularly in a test like this, is that's what most people will do. They'll come in, they'll set their destination, and off they go. And if they need to charge the car, they expect the car to tell them. Yes, a better route planner does that. That's fine. The other thing is it will tell you where to charge. A better route planner will also do that, and maybe you'll do it slightly better. But the updates on the sat nav in this car have been really good, and as I've just demonstrated, it's actually adjusting on the fly. The third reason, and the reason that I specifically have chosen to use this inbuilt sat nav today, is when you are approaching a rapid charger in this car, it will preheat the battery. That's something that other apps that are not connected to your vehicle can't do. And what that does is it means that the battery temperature is optimized for the rapid charger when you arrive, and you get the fastest charge that is available. And when you're trying to minimise the amount of time, the dwell time that you spend at each charger, that's an important factor. You want to arrive with a nice warm battery, plug it in and see the maximum rates available. So that's the three reasons for using the inbuilt sat-nav, as well as it being a particularly good test. And while I was recording this section and using the sat-nav as my main display, I could see that it actually updated the availability of the chargers at Gretna from 1 being available to 0 being available. So that's too risky for me. Although it was navigating there, it was actually telling me that. But I decided to put my small boy pants on and take the easier option of pulling off at the next services and using the GridServe chargers at Southwake. There's a secondary reason for that as well. I've been on the road for a couple of hours and I could probably use some liquid refreshment and a use of the facilities. So that's what I decided to do. And there you have it. Exactly the reason that people get frustrated with EVs. As if I was demonstrating it on purpose. Average speed of charger. That charger was 25.7 kilowatts. It should have been capable of doing more like 100. I stopped there and as I said, I used the facilities, grabbed a coffee, and then I got on my way again. But it didn't add anything like the amount of energy that I wanted to. We'll talk about the cost later on, but this was a really good demonstration of how poor some of the network infrastructure can be. There's still relatively new chargers in there, but the one I happened to choose was sharing its max 50 kilowatt load with another vehicle, and I was only getting half of that. Just not good enough, GridServe. If you're watching, it needs to improve and become more reliable as you roll out these faster chargers across the network. As a result, it's now updated my charging to use the next charger at Johnston Bridge, which actually is pretty good for me because that's where I was aiming to get lunch anyway. So we'll see what that charger brings us. Just a demonstration here of some of the poor driving experience. This vehicle in front was quite happily doing 70 miles an hour in lane 1, and as you'll see, as they crossed the threshold, their speed has already dropped down to 60 miles an hour, 62, and then they put the signal on as they're pulling off because they've suddenly realised there's a vehicle behind them. I was using the radar guided cruise control, so it was automatically slowing down, but that's not the point. It's just pure paying attention and not focusing on anybody else around them. Okay, grumble over. So on this nice straight bit of road, I'm going to do a test of the vehicle tracking. I've turned off auto steer, I've turned off lane keep assist, and I'm doing this because this vehicle has a real history of not tracking straight. So moving out to lane 2, and as I get it straight and level, I'm just going to let go of the wheel now. And grab me back hold again. So you can see that despite all the tests that the Kia engineers have done and the fact that it's been on multiple tracking rigs, it says that it tracks straight. It doesn't wear tyres out, it doesn't do anything. It's just, if you have all the devices turned off, it will just steer left. Really odd. Really odd. Anyway, onward. So there we have a lunchtime stop, much more successful in terms of charging. In 29 minutes, adding 43 kilowatt hours, a much higher average speed, and at the start we're seeing speeds well over 100 kilowatts. In fact, the average is probably lower than you would normally get because it tapered off as I was getting to higher states of charge. The rather quick lunch that I had, half an hour is not bad for a lunch stop, was actually getting to a 93% when I came away in terms of state of charge. So speed in charge dips off significantly at 80% and then again further at 90%. So you wouldn't normally use a rapid charger to get to that higher state of charge. And I was conscious that there wasn't a queue of people. I wasn't hogging a charger before anybody starts anything and says that I should have been on my way at 80%. There's a certain irony at this point in the journey because I'm coming off the M74 just at the point where it was becoming the most useful part of the motorway. It was the last part of the M74 to be built, but I need to come off here and take up the old road. I haven't mentioned at this point the reason for the journey. I can probably disclose now that it was a successful trip to take a photograph of a particular train, and I'll drop one in at the appropriate time. But yes, a 400-mile round trip just to take a picture of a train. Yes, I am that sort of nerd, but never mind. So that's it, mission accomplished on the way back now. Do not adjust your sets. It has gone dark, even though it's only 1:30 in the afternoon. At this point, I'm looking at 207 miles to my destination. SatNav is saying I need to do 2 stops, one for 12 minutes at an Ionity charger at Carlisle, and then a further 9 minutes further down. Currently got 78% remaining with 162 miles of theoretical range. At this point, some people might be wondering, on a long journey like this on my own, apart from talking to myself, what would one listen to? There really is only one answer to that.
I'm Johnny Smith.
I'm Richard Porter.
And this is Smith and Sniff, a podcast in which two friends talk about cars and many other things live at Mini.
So this charge at Ionity in Carlisle is the only one where I've recorded the specific dwell time of 20 minutes. I didn't need a coffee, I didn't use the facilities, this was purely needed for charging. But you could see there that the rate of charge was high, averaging 88 kilowatts, and only stopping for just over 10 minutes. Plus the time it took to get off the motorway, drive around the roundabouts, get back on the motorway again. So a total of 20 minutes additional journey time required just because I was driving an EV and needed to charge it. All the other charges on this route throughout the 380 odd miles that I did need coffee, food, toilet, and did not stop for any longer than it took to do any of those. Just a short note here, I've no idea why the sat-nav sent me off around the back roads of Penrith. It didn't add any journey time. Whether there was a delay on the roundabout, I don't know, but it just took me on a little scenic diversion through Penrith towards the end of the day. So a bit of an update. We are now on the A66. You can see that the weather has deteriorated. It is raining, it's windy, so this is much more what we expected from the day. Current efficiency since last charge was 2.6, so still fairly consistent. The charging recommendation keeps changing based on traffic and current efficiency, but it's saying I've got 153 miles left to final destination with 133 miles of range. So it's getting into not achievable, but it's getting towards a very obvious last splash and dash at the next charger. So that's us past the highest point on the A66 back into the proper side of the country. I'm only joking. It's done 54 miles since the last charge, and it's about 2.3 miles per kilowatt hour in terms of efficiency, so it's pretty low. I've seen lower, but it's mainly due to that climb up the hill while in these poor conditions. The recommended charge stop does keep moving, although it does say I've got 106 miles of range left and 93 miles to go. So on paper it's achievable, but it would certainly be squeaky bum time. As it is, I'm going to stop at Scotch Corner Services anyway because I need the facilities, so I'll just give it a quick splash and dash there before I head on back down the road. That will be the last charge of the day. The only reason that I would consider not stopping there is the cost. One of the things that we do suffer from as drivers of EVs since the energy crisis a couple of years ago is that the cost of charging out on the road on rapid chargers is significantly more expensive than charging at home. In some cases 10 times what you would pay at home. So it's always a good idea to get home with the smallest amount of charge in your battery that you can get away with and utilise your home charger and hopefully a dual price tariff for cheap overnight charging as well. At the end of the journey I'll put up the total cost. We'll probably see that it's approaching parity with the cost of doing the same journey in an ICE powered vehicle, petrol or diesel. That's just the nature of the way things are with the cost of expensive electricity out on the road. It's no longer the cheap alternative to motoring that it used to be if you want to do long journeys and are reliant on the public charging network. So here we are pulling into Scotch Corner Services. As I said, just going to give it a quick tickle on the charger just to top it off. But it's more about my own comfort here for a couple of reasons. I want to get my destination time accurate. It will mean get stuck in traffic at some point, but I might as well choose where to do that. Efficiency up to this point since the last charger is 2.5 miles per kilowatt hour, so it increased slightly by coming down the hill, but yeah, it's still significantly lower than the normal average. The usual random pedestrians at this services, not knowing where the taxi's going, etc, etc. The other thing I'm going to do while I stop at these services, give the headlights and windows a clean. Had a day out on the road, and despite the very efficient ceramic coating that's on this EV6, it's always a good idea to make sure that you can see and be seen. Next time we get back out on the road, it will probably have gone dark because I'll wait here again, as I said, for the right traffic conditions. But yeah, final charge of the day. Yep, so there you go. The actual time spent on charger was only 11 minutes, with adding 13.2 kilowatts. Just like I said, that's more about my own personal comfort, and see what I can get home with. There's a debate in our household as to what the most appropriate level of charge to get home with. Somewhere around 10% is a good comfort factor, particularly as that's at the point at which the low battery warning comes on. Anyway, yeah, you can see here that weather conditions have deteriorated. It's persisting down, dark and lots of spray. Another reason for doing the voiceover in post is it's actually really hard to hear what I was being said because of the noise on the windscreen. In fact, as I'm talking here on video, I'm trying to talk a bit louder because I can hear the rain in my ear from the original footage. A short note on tyres. I've fitted Gross Climate Michelin's to this car, and this was the first time I'd had it out in real deep water conditions and standing water, and the tyres were performing excellently. Really impressed with them. Not an advert for Michelin or any affiliation in any way, but I was really pleased with what I'd done. And in other conditions, not really noticed much in terms of deterioration in range or increases in noise. Little tiny bit increase in noise, but not so much as you would complain about it compared to the gains that you're going to get in wet and slippy weather performance. Overall, really impressed with the tyres. But I shall leave my other self to carry on and concentrate in these tricky conditions. At this point in these conditions, it's also worth pointing out that this car's fitted with matrix headlights, and as you can see here, it's using a couple of the cells on the left hand side to highlight the hard shoulder and give a better visibility, and then it will drop the main beam down whenever a vehicle comes into its pocket of light. The effectiveness of these matrix headlights on the Kia have been really impressive. Hardly any people complaining about being blinded by the lights behind them or going oncoming. The only thing I would criticise them is that they're not quite as powerful out on the open road as the ones in my previous Jaguar, but overall very effective. Speaking of lights, how powerful and how bright are those lights on the opposite carriageway? That was a HGV flashing somebody who got aggravated with giving them all the lights, and basically I lost vision for a good few seconds while he was doing that. Completely unnecessary and ridiculous, but that's what you get when you have HGVs that have decided to plaster the front of their cab with many high power LEDs. So there we have it, 383 miles, 142 kilowatt hours used, averaging 2.69 miles per kilowatt hour. Fairly low. Total charging time was an hour and 35, and as I said, there's only like 20 minutes of that where it was pure dwell time for a charger that I needed that I wouldn't otherwise have needed. Total cost, £90.79 or 23.7 pence per mile. As I said, I think we're approaching parity now with that versus an ICE vehicle. Overall though, a very pleasurable way to spend a rainy day travelling to Scotland and back. Can you do 400 miles in a day in an EV? Yes, you certainly can. Is it a cheaper alternative to a petrol or diesel car? Probably not on that sort of journey. But overall though, a very enjoyable journey made much easier by a highly competent vehicle. Thank you for watching.